right, welcome back everybody to another edition of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series that I do where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find variants in books that just you don't see up on the walls at your LCS or even at most shows. This is just stuff that's difficult to track down, whether they be high incentive variants, just low printed books, special exclusives, things of that nature, just weird stuff that just isn't easy to find. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as the rest of the content on the channel. If you are, please let me know in the comments and like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. I got stuff dropping at least once a day. Hopefully we keep growing this thing, so keep telling your friends to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to know what ghosts I'm going to be talking about today, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I'll be right back with this week's books. Okay, so for this week, I got another selection of some books for us to look at that are just not easy to track down. These just aren't stuff that I can find. Starting off with my first book, which is one I've been looking for quite a while, and I just don't see this thing. It is a pretty cool Matina cover. This Red Hood, The Lost Days, issue 1 is just not an easy book to find. It was very expensive at least one time, a couple of years ago. So I feel like the price has come down just a tiny bit, but it's still pricey. Don't get me wrong. It's still not a cheap book. But this 1 in 25 from June 2010 is just not easy. It's just not easy. Estimated print run of a little over 34,000. So if we do the math on that with the 1 in 25, we're looking at about 1,367 max copies potentially. So you know, over 1,300 copies wouldn't make it seem like there's plenty out there, but I'm telling you, I just don't see it. I just don't see it out there. I'm not seeing this at shops. I looked at some shows, but I just don't see this. Now, if we look at the census to see how many copies are in the census, we got 80, half of which are 9.8. So we got 40 9.8s, 25 9.6s, and then a smattering of others down the line. So 80 seems like a high number, but realistically, it's not that bad considering this book is it's 11 years old at this point, and that's all. 80 for this 1 in 25, and this was again a very well-known book at one time. Like Matina was the bee's knees not that long ago, where a lot of his covers were just were spiking hard, and people were chasing them. And this was one of the tougher variants that he had out there. So this was one that did get pretty pricey at one time. And if you're out there shopping right now, what can you find? We got two. We got 2 copies for you, both about $400 raw, and that's it. 10 watchers on the one, 23 watchers on the other. Not cheap, definitely not cheap. And this, again, it's a 1 in 25, so it's not like some ridiculously high incentive. And like I said, 1,300 copies potentially make it seem like there should be plenty out there, but still, $400. Not too bad. And if you look at what actually sold recently, we've also got 2. We got a 9.8 that sold for $570, and then raw that sold on a best offer for on $270, so under $270 on that raw. So yeah, definitely interesting. But that's it. 2 copies sold over the last 3 months, and only 2 copies out there right now if you were shopping for one. Definitely not an easy book to find. And I know Matina has had his issues. There's a lot of complaints about his art and whatnot. But hey, regardless, I look at this cover, I like it. I wish I had one. That's all I can say. And the next one is another cover that I kind of wish I would have picked up, but I didn't. I missed out on this one when it came out. It is one of my favorite artists, David Nakayama. Big fan. This Scarlet Witch on this tarot, this infinity cover, where it's her on the card, 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 just going off into nothingness. Fantastic. Fantastic. I wish I would have picked this up when it came out, but I missed it. And since then, it's just gotten pricier on me. high incentive, 1 in 50 on this thing. So this was a tough one. This is why I balked right at the start, because I don't like buying 1 in 50s at the outset, because they're usually at least pretty close to ratio. So I don't like dropping $50 on a new book, on the week it comes out. It's just not something I normally like to do. So that's why I kind of paused. As much as I liked it, I was like, I don't know, maybe it'll be cheaper. And then yeah, it's not. It's not cheaper. January 2020, so not that old. Only came out a couple of years ago. And a print run of only 23,429 estimated. So if we do that math, only 468 copies of this. 468, under 500 copies of this potentially. Now I know there's chances that number's just correct. Again, just the math that I do off of the estimated print run. We don't know for sure, but all I know for sure is I don't see this book all that often. So regardless of whether that number is true or not, it's low, and this book's hard to find. We look in the census, 55 copies in the census, 48 9/8, 7 9/6, and that's it. That's it, 55. 55. Not too bad. And if you want to go buy one of these, you got 3 options right now. $687 on a 9/8, $400 raw, $275 raw. 21 watchers on that raw, by the way. Yeah, it's not a cheap book. So I balked at 50 or 50-ish when it came out. Yeah, I can't be swinging at $275, $400 raw. As much as I'd like to, I just can't. I just can't convince myself that I can do it. So we'll see. Maybe I get lucky and find one somewhere. But this 1 in 50 is one that slipped past the goalie. And yeah, one of those ones I regret missing. But when we look at what actually sold recently, again, I got 3 copies sold. We got a 9/8 CBCS that went at auction for $269. That's not too bad. I could be in on that price, as well as the CBCS 9/8 down below for $225 buy it now back in August. Those things, that's too bad. For 1 in 50, I can get that 9/8, but $250 for the raw in the middle there, and that's getting a little pricey. If I get that slab fee covered and it's a guaranteed 9/8, now you're talking my language around those prices, but it's still a bit of a stretch for me. But again, that's just my budget. Your budget could be completely different than mine. I'm just giving you the prices and what I think of this book, and it's just not easy to find. Again, 3 copies sold the last 3 months. Only 3 copies out there right now if you wanted to buy one. My next book, I've got sitting right next to me. So this one I actually do have already, and thankfully I do. This is Teen Titans number 75. You know I am a fan of Adam Hughes. My buddy John Z actually sold me this copy. We worked out a deal. I'm happy I was able to make him happy and give him the cash that he wanted for it at the time. And I was able to get the book that I wanted, at a price that I was willing to pay for at the time. Definitely a great book. I'm glad I have it, because if I were to be shopping for this thing now, I probably couldn't afford it. That being said, this 75th anniversary issue, I want to say 1 in 25 incentive, September 2009. Print runs, not a small one, but this 1 in 25 is definitely still not easy to find, regardless of how many copies we can estimate being out there. Because we look at the census, 65 copies in the CGC census, 27 9/8. I got one sitting right here, 22 9/6. So you can see there's a lot of 9/6 to go with those 9/8, and then a smattering of others for those 65. But definitely a cool book, and one I'm glad that, like I said, I have now, because when you look at what's out there now, there's one, and a 9/8, $1,600 is what they're asking. 13 watchers. Yeah, I see. I couldn't be paying that for this. I just couldn't. That would be out of my range. And then when we want to look at what actually sold recently, we got two sales, both raw, $511, 24 bids. So it's bids on that one. 24 bids got it up over $500, and then a buy it now for $480. And those both sales were in July. So nothing since July, and only one out there right now. Definitely a tough book. I mean, we're getting pretty close where those July sales are going to drop off. And when we look at the history, there's going to be nothing. Just saying. Which is going to take us to our last book. And this is another one I've talked about a couple of times. I really dig this. I wish I would have picked it up when I had a chance, and I didn't. Carnage. Yes, we've got Venom vs. Carnage coming out this week, just a couple of days. I'm looking forward to it. This is probably the one book that I really want from the Carnage run. This variant for issue number 6 is just I love the homage, the Tomb of Dracula homage. It's just great. And this is only a 1 in 15 incentive from March of 2016. But the print run was relatively low, 28,000, a little under, almost 29,000. But it's still going to give you close to 2,000 copies, potentially. 1,900 copies, but I don't see 1,900 copies. But they are probably out there. They are probably, because again, it's only 1 in 15. 1 in 15 is not a high incentive, so there's going to be plenty to be had, because a lot of places would have been ordering at least 15 copies of Carnage, because 15 is not that steep of an order for a shop. What's in the census? 49 copies with 35 9/8s, 11 9/6s, and then 3 9/4s, and that's it for those 49. So it's not too many. Not too many in the census for this thing, surprisingly. If there's close to 2,000 copies, but there's only 49 graded, and this thing's like 5 years old, it's kind of surprising to me. But we want to look at what's listed for sale. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of options for sale. It's just pricey. It's just pricey. There's copies to be had. It's just they're expensive. For one reason or another, there's $1,000 raw out there. They're asking $1,000. But then you can look at, there's a couple of 9/8s asking $600 and $500 for this book, as well as another raw asking $280. And then we got another page worth of sales with some raws from $250 down to $135 for raws. Again, a few options, and that's still not it. There's still more. 9/8 for $450, 9/8 for $450, 9/8 for only $400. So these are the cheaper slabs here at the end, but still $400 for a slab 9/8, 135 to 250 raw. It's too rich for my blood. I just can't buy it at that price. Personally, just can't do it. But there are options to be had, to be sure. It's just pricey. So I think you might know where I'm going to be putting that one. And we want to look at what actually sold recently. We had 125.50 at auction, 20 bids. It's a lot of action on that back in August, $125. And then a 9/8 took a best offer on the 375 ask. So also not too bad, I guess, for that. And that's it. Just 2 sales. 2 sales the last 3 months. It's definitely not a lot, but there are a lot of copies to be had. So because of that, there's a lot of copies to be had. It's just expensive. Yeah, I'm going to call this one just hard to find. It's just hard to find and expensive. It's not Ghost. There's over a dozen copies, or close to a dozen copies at least, that you have at your disposal. If you just want to go and shell out the bucks for it, you can have this. It's just you got to pay for it. Whereas the other 3 books, even though there might be a copy or 3 copies available, that's it. I mean, 3 copies, I'm not going to say is a lot. It's not a huge pool for you to choose from. And so with that being said, these 3 I feel are worthy of getting that ghost qualification for that. So that's my call for this week. We got 3 ghosts, 1 hard to find. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think these books should be? Should they all be considered ghosts? I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know. They're not easy to find. But like I said, if there's copies to be purchased, we really can't call it a ghost now, can we? Multiple copies. Again, I still don't consider 3 a lot. So I'm still stretching and kind of playing with my criteria of when I'm considering a ghost and not. But right now, that's my gut for this week. Again, hopefully you like this and you enjoy what I'm doing here. If you are, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. And I will see you guys possibly as soon as this Saturday with another supersized edition of Chasing Ghosts. At least that's my plan for right now. But we'll see how the week plays out. And I will see you guys soon.